defensemen on if you're on the power play with less than a minute left, down by a goal. Have two defensemen on the ice, regardless of what's going on. When they pull the goalie, it becomes 5-on-5. You're still in a threat position, not where you want to be. You got to have another D out there. If the Swiss had have scored, you could have completely blamed the coaching for that. So you should that shouldn't really even be a discussion we're having at this level. I'm shocked by that, to be honest with you. As a coach, I would never be in that position. I get you're trying to get a goal to seal it. You can get a goal with your defenseman out there. Your team, freaking Canada. Like, yeah, it was tough for me, Chris.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier about how Canada looked a little slow, and that was a real concern against the United States. And now Switzerland did not have the speed to counter, but the transition game wasn't super strong. There wasn't a lot of flow to the game, and I think that really played into the hands of Switzerland over the course of that game. And, Canada's got a lot of veteran players. They got a lot of crafty players that know what they're doing. But they got into penalty trouble. They got, and all those different things. And it just can't happen when you're playing that way. So I think that there's a lot of, a lot of things that need to be sorted, in terms of how things are going to go. They've got a couple of days off now.
Yep.
The gold medal game is on the 19th. So it gives you a chance to re-rack, reset, and figure things out. But gosh, I don't know what kind of plays you can draw, but I don't know what you can do to really battle, because USA rolled through their semifinal, and you just struggled with Switzerland. I mean, it's not a good momentum situation going into that final.
You know what I'm going to say? The 1-3-1 trap. Bring in Guy Boucher, run through it, set up the
You just want to gum
system.
up the neutral zone, and that honestly, it might be what needs to happen.
Yes.
But the other thing that I think is that whenever USA and Canada play, weird things happen.
Mm-hmm.
It always is way more even than you think it's going to be. There have been years where Canada has looked far better and it got close. There are years where USA looked far better and they lost. And that's the way it goes sometimes. It's, it's really difficult to judge going into those games. But the one thing that I think we've seen is USA has taken the step even further than Canada at this point, because Canada, as we mentioned, we talked about it before, they're an older, more veteran team. USA has turned their team over to younger players. Many of their best players are still in college right now, not in the professional ranks. So it's really amazing to see that dynamic between the two teams. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes of it. But I mean, if you're Canada, the good news is Marie-Philippe Poulin is back and scoring goals and is still as good as ever. But there's a lot of concern.
No, there is concern also with her too, because you could see that she was trying to not walk. She took the cart to get to the ice, sitting beside the Swiss player, which is just goes to show you the sportsmanship. I don't know if you necessarily see that happen on the men's side before a game. So that was kind of awesome to see. But credit to the Swiss. They do deserve it in this case. But yeah, guys, after the break, we have to talk about the American game. The American women took on the Swiss in a dominant performance. And I have to mention Fortune Tires, guys. Fortune Tires on FloHockey. Whether driving to the rink or cross country, find a retailer near you at FortuneTireUSA.com. And right after the break, Murphy, man, what a game out of her. Some impressive performances out of the Americans, and we'll tell you who we like to see.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression. Power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself. And you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
we're back from the break to discuss now USA and Sweden. Chris, your thoughts on your big win?
Well, I'm certainly not playing, but when you see Abby Murphy, who is the pride of Evergreen Park, Illinois, which is right by where I grew up in the Chicago area, you do almost feel a little bit of ownership when one of your own is cooking out there. But 5-0 final. And once again, USA now 5 consecutive shutouts. They have had a shutout streak of 133 minutes in this tournament, or 131 minutes. And it's been a really incredible showing that they've had, a record showing there. They own the puck. I mean, really, there were stretches of that game where I wasn't sure that Sweden was ever going to touch the puck. And Sweden came up from the lower bracket. They won all of their games. It was a battle of 2 5-0 teams, and it was just a mismatch in every single way, with how USA showed with their speed, their puck possession, their ability to score, their relentlessness. Now, it did get off to a slower start offensively. I thought, USA took a little bit while to get revved up. But then you got Taylor Heisey coming through. You had the big goal from Kayla Barnes, her first. That was the first goal of the game. Then Taylor Heisey scores on a bit of a squeaker, but on a good play. Abby Murphy with an absolute snipe. So, you're starting to see it. And then Kendall Coyne gets a deflection off a Layla Edwards shot. Jason Kelsey was in the crowd. Everybody was feeling the vibes. The Kachuk brothers were there. It was a big win for Team USA. Yeah. Oh yeah, they were there. They were there. Don't give me that look.
Who cares?
But yeah, there was a lot of good things. There was a lot of good things happening in that building. And Erin Frankel is now the first woman to have 3 shutouts in a single Olympics. The record was 2. I believe there were 7 or 8 women that had 2 shutouts in a single Olympics. Now Erin Frankel has 3. Hasn't really had to work hard. She's one of the best goalies in the world, and she is barely seeing the puck. And so you give one of the best talents there is and no puck to actually save, well, you're in real trouble. She did have a couple tough saves today, but she made them. And so, yeah, so an incredible performance, an incredible run, maybe the most dominant U.S. team ever, but it only matters if you win the game that matters most. And that, of course, is the gold medal game. I can't wait for it. I think the entire country is looking forward to it. They've been one of the big stories of this tournament, one of the most dominant showings that you could see. And the U.S. women have brought it every single game.
Yeah, speaking of bringing it, I want to do a player comparison. Abby Murphy and Michael Bunting. I think Murphy's playing as close to the edge at these games as you can possibly play. Probably a more skilled version of Michael Bunting because he more slots into that third line role, although he was a first line player for the Toronto Maple Leafs for an extended period of time with Matthews and Marner. But she is working to draw penalties at every single moment. If you're a Canadian player lining up against her, you have to keep it in mind. She will try and find a way to draw a penalty. She had an exceptional performance, but that is one of the biggest things I've noticed throughout this tournament is she's being a real agitator. And the Swedish players really started to get a little frustrated. I know there was a point where major contact was made with their goaltender where there was ample space to move around, and that didn't sit too well. Although the Swedes' reaction to it cost them a power play. So that was a tougher situation for them when they were trying to maybe have a chance at getting back there, Chris. But Abby Murphy, Michael Bunting.
I mean, she's something else. She really is. And going into the tournament, my pal Emily Kaplan wrote a really good story about Abby or really the women's team in general on ESPN.com. And in the preliminary round, Abby Murphy drew 9 penalties. Team USA had taken 10 as a team, and she drew 9 penalties on her own. So that's the kind of way that she plays. John Wroblewski, the head coach, that's the kind of player that he loves to have. It's interesting. He coached on the men's side, coached the ECHL, the AHL. I'm sure that players like Abby Murphy on his teams in those leagues were going to get extra ice time because they create so much energy. And that's really what she does beyond the other stuff. And yeah, will she go down a little easier every now and again? Sure, of course. But I also think she's one of those just premier pests on top of it. But she's got the skill to back it up. She had an absolute snipe for the goal today. And to see the way that both she and Taylor Heisey and then also Hannah Bilka on that line have been so incredible together. The chemistry is there. But man, she is so fun to watch. And has been a real spark plug and has gotten the Bald Eagles into it. She's gotten the whole family's getting into it now. That's Haley Wynn's brothers right there. The Clarkson alum, Haley Wynn. Those guys have brought the heat every night. So, when they're there, things are going well. So
yeah, that's a good photo. It's a good photo.
It's a pretty good photo. Pretty good.
I will give credit where credit is due. So you look at the matchup, and we'll break that down closer to the end of the show. But the tides have really changed in some ways for the Americans. Up and down the lineup, there is skill, and they've got a lot of really great young players. Like Edwards, for example, is incredibly hard to play against. Teams really should just avoid dumping the puck to her side of the ice because it's unlikely that they're going to get a long stick consistently, effectively using the body, but one of the players who's effectively used it, there was a lot of body checking that started to result of just players being more comfortable in the P-dub where they do allow them to throw those hits. And we were seeing penalties called left, right, and center throughout the last few days for bigger hits. Well, Edwards, a bigger body on that ice, has not had that same problem. Also, a younger player playing in this tournament has not had this problem. So I think it speaks volumes to the absolute gem you guys have on the back end right now. But I do feel like, because we've spoken about this, the NHL rules and the IIHF rules kind of merging together on the women's side, although it would in some ways be an unfair advantage, they really got to be playing on the same rule set too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, really, it's the physicality of women's hockey in general has always been there, but it's grown in such a way because I think there's more aggressive angling. There's more things. We saw some really ugly hits today in the Canada-Swiss game that, did get penalized. And so I think the refs have been relatively okay with it. I think they're going to probably let them play pretty hard in this game between Canada and the US. And the thing is that normally that would play in the favor of the older, bigger team that Canada is, but I don't think that USA is going to shy away from any of that stuff. So I'm just really excited to see where things end up with this team because they are absolutely loaded for bear right now. And I think, there's a lot of, they felt like they turned the corner in 2018 when they won and then lost in 2022. And now it feels like they've learned all the lessons over those 4 years and have put that to putting the best possible team out there. And this team is absolutely sensational.
Yeah, goaltending is obviously a battle on the men's side. We've had discussions on which goaltender is going to be able to push for Team Canada. Team USA, not at all such a discussion. It's been a very just consistent group. There's no been lineup discussion has not been a thing. We've started to see that creep into the Canadian side. Natalie Spooner not really playing a lot, and having that addressed on the broadcast is a unique thing because typically she'd be one of your most relied upon players. She really didn't see any shifts for the first about half of the game there. So yeah, it's kind of funny. The United States has just been just the truest team. On the men's side, we obviously had discussions like Keller drawing in, who else is going to be potentially playing when they have to go into the quarters. On the American team, I think it's just such a sound group. You don't really have to make any adjustments of any kind, especially going in against Canada because of how it already worked once. Now, is there a way for Canada to solve that? I mean, I brought up the trap, but that doesn't score you goals unless you're perfect on the counter. But to do that, Chris, you have to have the speed, which we're not necessarily seeing. So it's tough. The United States, I brought this up in the doc. I actually wrote it down. I said, does the lack of competition for the USA send them into the gold medal game with an unbreakable amount of confidence? I think it does. There's nothing to question.
Yeah, it's unbreakable, but it's maybe untested a little bit too. And so I think you always want to try to face a little bit of adversity. Just, you don't want to manufacture it. If you don't face it, you don't face it. You can go ahead and roll through everybody. But at the same time, what happens if you get punched in the mouth? You've barely played from behind. You really only known the lead. You've given up one goal the entire tournament. So there's really not a lot of adversity to speak of. So what happens if this game does get played tighter? Can you adjust to that? That's going to be the key. And if Canada can make them do that, it becomes a much more interesting game.
Yeah, we have to see. The officials are actually probably going to play a large role in how the game kind of looks, depending on if they're going to let them hit or if they're not going to let them hit at all. It can really change the impact. And that Canadian power play, whether slow or fast, still has all of those shooters. But after the break, guys, we have more games on the men's side to break down because we are in the play-in rounds, the qualifications, to see who will play the top 4 seeds. So We've got lots of action to break down there. We're going to give you guys an inside look and some of the statistics related to these teams. And I got to give another Fortune Tires ad read to you guys because they are the presenting sponsor of our show. Fortune Tires on FloHockey, the official tire of the AHL. Find your nearest retailer at FortuneTiresUSA.com. Guys, it's wintertime. Got to make sure you got those tires, and we'll see you after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
And we're back from the break, and we have to break down the games. Chris, starting early off in the wee of the morning for us, we've got Germany and France, and we have Switzerland and Italy. Let's break down this Germany-France matchup first. One of the better draws, ironically.
Yeah, how about it, right? You know, like France gets the barn doors blown off them a little bit, and in that last game against Canada, and here they are against Germany, and you know, Germany I think is an exceptional team. You know, having Draisaitl and Stützle and Seider as like the core of your team is really good. You're going to have Philipp Grubauer on more rest, so that's good for you. And if you're the French team, well, you're down one player because you sent him home because you didn't like what he was doing. So as we mentioned at the top of the show, Crinon suspended for the remainder. His games are over, and you know, for France, you only have one NHL player, Alexander Texier, who's kind of been pretty quiet. I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
20 minutes a night, though. 20 minutes a night on average and quiet.
Yes, exactly. He's playing a ton, and I think teams are, you know, keying on him. But it's opened the door. You know, guys like Louis Boudin, who played in the ECHL at the beginning of the season, and then also, you know, is back in Europe, and you know, a number of players that have done enough things to keep you honest. And it's really going to come down to goaltending. Can you get the goaltending? And if you do, you have a chance. Yeah. You know, I think Germany is by far the better team, but the same at the same time, I think that you have to respect France because they did push. Like the Czech game, that was a game for a little bit. And then France kind of had some mishaps at the end of a period that really cost them that game. So they're just good enough to scare you. And I think if you're Germany, you have to take them real seriously.
Yeah, the Germans, 47 chances for, 47 against. They have, scored 7, but that's with Draisaitl playing close to 23 minutes on average per game, and he was cramping out. You could see it. He was tired. Against the French, he should be able to walk around a little bit more. So if they can get a lead early, this German team is going to have to roster manage, make sure they play smart to further rest their players, because then they have to go right back into action yet again. So you got to be smart. Sider, 26 minutes a game. So again, score a lot early. If you can break the French in the first period, you can slow down the amount of time you have to play your top end players and then allow those guys, your grinders from the DEL, to build out a little bit more of that game for you. But we move on to the Switzerland-Italy preview. And the Germans, like I said, Stützle tired, but you also have to evaluate who's tired on this Italian team.
Everybody?
Probably. And you got to look at the forward group here. So Giancinto is averaging about 18 minutes a game as a forward, and then Gaisley 18 minutes as a forward. So we're talking about the Germans being tired. Those Italian forwards are averaging a lot of ice, now not breaking the 20-minute on average mark, which is good because that means they're mixing stuff around. But against the Swiss, they've been playing pretty smart and have had more chances for than against, 45-43, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, and they've had a lot of tight games. They played some tough ones. I thought that there were moments against Canada where they were showing their quality, and there were, you have guys like Yossi and Niederreiter that have the experience internationally that have been there before. You have Timo Meyer playing at a pretty high level, and there's a number of guys that have helped you. And then on top of that, you've gotten your goaltending too. Having the goaltending going is so critical, and that's really the only chance Italy has in this game. Is if they get whichever goalie they go with, if they can steal the game for them. And, we saw Damian Clara have some great moments in this tournament and face tons and tons of shots and put some fear into teams with his ability to make those big saves. He's AHL property of the San Diego Gulls and probably will be there at the end of the year, and also an NHL prospect of the Anaheim Ducks as a result. So, that's going to be interesting to see him and how, if he's the guy, and how that goes for them. But this Swiss team at the international levels, they've been in this situation enough times. There have been a lot of guys that have played in these single elimination games. They were in the gold medal game. They were a goal away from their first world championship last year against the United States. They end up losing that game 1-0. This is a team that can really muck up a game. And I think if you're Italy, you're going to be just trying to figure out how the heck you're even supposed to score when Swiss is going to have so much firepower on the other side.
And the Swiss are coming off a big 4-3 win against Czechia, and then you have the Italians coming in off 11-0 loss against, as I space out on it, the Finns. So,
yeah.
Yes,
and that was, sorry, I should have saved you on that one. But the Finns
left me out to dry.
And think about that. The Finns scoring 11 goals. That's why Finland is got the bye to the quarterfinals. So Finland was like, hey, we understood the assignment. We're going to run it up against the Italians here. And, the good news for Italy, though, they did get that extra day of rest, didn't they? So
yes, the extra day of rest Chris, it will matter a lot. They looked tired against their game against the Finns. So now looking at this matchup, the Swiss matchup, it's a tough spot. The Germany matchup, because of how tired Germany looked more recently, maybe you give France a slight first period chance. With the Italians, it's going to be one of those games where it's just you happen to beat them like 1-0, 2-0 maybe, because your goalie's standing outside of their mind. You're going to be outshot. Both these games you probably will see Germany outshoot and the Swiss also outshoot. So your goaltender has to stop absolutely everything. And then when you get your counterattack 4 or 5 times a game, you got to score on at least half of them. And that's kind of the key to victory, is just off the counter. Hope the other team makes a mistake. That's the only chance either of these teams have. Italy, only 4 goals on the tournament. France has 5. It's a tough task now going into this situation, where it also means more and the players are going to be taking it a tad bit more seriously.
Oh man. Yeah. And that isn't to be underrated too. We talked about it yesterday, that when you put desperation in front of a team, and you let them hang around. Like if you let Italy or France hang around, if you're either one of Germany or Switzerland, the worst thing you can do is allow a team to believe they can do it.
Yep.
And if they do, then they start playing a little bit differently. They start playing a little bit harder, and all of a sudden you're getting more nervous. And so we saw that a little bit with Canada against Switzerland today on the women's side. So there are a lot of things that you can do, and it's just about playing your game and making sure that you're staying on top of your game.
Yep.
Because that's really, at this point, you need to be continuing to build up. And that's the opportunity that these teams have in front of them right now, Babs.
Yeah, and the other key to victory we should point out is muddying it up in the first period. So if you're the French, make something crazy happen on the German side where you've got them freaking out, drawing a penalty, whatever it might be, or just hitting them incredibly hard back to back to back and see if you can get one of their star players to lose it. Same thing you're going to have to apply if you're the Italians. And D'Agostino, I know the guy, can't even say his last name right. He's got to do what he was doing against Sweden because it worked. Get them to freak out. That's your key to victory in the first period. Make it a dog fight. And then maybe, just maybe, there's a slight chance if you score on that counterattack. Like I'm telling you, man, you shouldn't have to write a script for a win. And that's the situation that both these teams are into. We're kind of writing fairy tales about how they're going to be able to get it done, Chris.
Yeah, you can't like the thing is you're not going to get a lot of chances. So when you do, you better deliver. And that's actually something that France did early against Czechia. It's something that Italy did a little bit at various stages of their tournament as well, where they're like, oh, hey, we're putting you on your heels a little bit here. So don't count these teams out. They're just, like I said, they're just good enough to scare you. If you're in the wrong, you have the wrong day, it could be bad. So
yeah, and that's one thing. Wrong day. You bring it up. I'll address it again. The flu bug. God forbid you're one of these big teams and someone gets sick and that spreads. That can be a thing that derails these teams. So if you see a team that's absolutely dogging it out there, that thought's going to be in your mind the same way I was like, what's going on with Canada? Could this be a thing? Because we saw the Finns not be able to play a game on the women's side at the beginning of this tournament. So that's the factor. Now, a thing that was mentioned to me a couple days ago was, some people are in hotels and stuff. Not all of these teams are circulating with all of the athletes, but they're still going to all the games and stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. So there is a chance. So yeah, maybe you guys are, or if they're out in Italy, maybe some guys stay out a little too late the night before. Who knows what could happen if someone doesn't take things seriously. Chris, that's the boat that we're looking at. There's a lot of stuff going on. The next set of games, we've got Latvia having a chance to play spoiler. They are up against Sweden. What could possibly happen there? We don't know because they play a hard-nosed game and they don't play to win. They play to keep it close. And Sweden has had issues with teams that are keeping it close that shouldn't be. So we might have some drama there. Hey, after the break, make sure to pay attention because I have even more information about some of these teams. It's pretty cool. But Fortune Tires, the official tire of the AHL, built for every drive, every season. Find yours at FortuneTireUSA.com. And Chris, you can also watch the AHL on FloHockey, but we will see you after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
And we are back from the break. Bigger games to talk about, Chris, because these are the ones we want to watch. Also the ones they put later on in the day. I wonder if there was some thought behind that. Great stuff. Czechia, Denmark, and Sweden, Latvia. Sweden, Latvia being the one where the most nonsense could probably happen. But Czechia, Denmark, the most competitive matchup. Also, the winner of that plays Canada.
Yeah, what a prize. What a prize, right? Like, yeah, good luck, enjoy. But yeah, I think the thing about both Latvia and Denmark, even more so than, we were talking about Italy and France, there's a lot more to it than these two teams. They're more than scary. They're just good enough to scare you. They are good enough to beat you. And I think that's something that has to be taken into consideration. Czechs have been very up and down in this tournament.
It's ugly, Chris. It's ugly.
Yeah, it's the very inconsistent. We don't know what we're going to get night in, night out. Denmark's heavy. They're physical. They can grind you down a little bit. They have goaltending that's good enough to beat you. Freddie Anderson has looked solid when he's played. I think he's going to be a big factor in the game, and he could definitely give Denmark the chance to beat the Czechs here. We haven't seen the best from Lucas Dostal either. But you've got some stats that can break it down even a little bit further. So I'm gonna throw it to you on that one.
Both Czechia and Denmark are -3 right now. However, Czechia has had 54 chances to 39 against. And then you just look at Denmark. Denmark's only had 36 chances and 50 against. So Denmark, as I stated yesterday, can score more with less. It goes to their advantage a little bit because they are heavy and play on the counter significantly. Denmark coming in off of a win. Czechia coming off of a loss. It's tough to say who I really want to give the complete edge to because pre-tournament it'd be Czechia by like a decent amount. However, they seem to be having some issues. Passes really leading them a lot in terms of ice time. Gudas, not looking good. But an interesting point to mark about the Danes. Storm, DEL player, is one of their leading ice time gainers, whatever you want to call it. A lot of ice time out of a DEL player on a team that's got a decent amount of NHL guys. So interesting to see that there. A lot of faith in that. A group that is just going to frustrate you and hit you into the boards at every single chance. They are aggressive on the forecheck. Chris, I'm probably, if I was a betting man, it's Denmark.
Oh.
So I'd be taking Denmark in this situation. I think there's the chance that this game is going to go off the rails for the Czechs.
Wow. Yeah. It's so interesting. I feel like having a player like Pasternak who can potentially take a game over for you. That's the thing that I'm not sure Denmark has. And that's maybe one of the things that could be the thing, but it's not, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all. I really do think that the Czechs probably, they have top to bottom the better offensive team. But then you look at the way that Denmark has played, and they're playing some of those guys that have more European experience because they've done it at the World Championship level and had enough success. Last year, they beat Canada in the World Championship and in one of the most shocking upsets in that tournament's history. And that they had Sidney Crosby on that roster. They had Macklin Celebrini on that roster. So, this is a team that has a lot of confidence and reason to believe that they can hang with the top teams. And Czechia just hasn't played like a top team yet in this tournament. We haven't seen them do that, to be a -3 heading into this stage of the tournament. This is a team we were like, hey, they're a dark horse for a medal here. And that has not been the case so far.
Nope, not been the case so far. A little, it's hard to describe what we've fully seen out of that group. But moving on over, the Latvians is going to be a very interesting game. They are a team that can frustrate you. They frustrate you at the World Juniors every year. Sweden, 11 goals for, 9 against, 58 chances to 34 against. They're coming off of a win, which didn't feel like one. But Latvia, 7 goals, 12 against, 32 chances, 56 against, coming off of a loss. So you would probably be giving the edge across of most of these statistics here. It would lead you to think that this is going to be a Sweden victory. But Sweden's allowed teams that they're supposed to dominate against into the game, like what we saw with Italy, where it was an insanely shocking scenario halfway through the game where Italy was really taking it to them. So,
Yes.
God, Latvia is a better group, I would suspect. And also given the way that they're coached and played, this could just has disaster written all over it. And then they get the USA. So, again,
Yeah,
you're not getting
again,
the
another
greatest
great
prize. Not a great prize.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We talked a lot about, Team USA trying to, get the goal differential, maybe avoid Sweden. And that Sweden has not played like a team so far that is to be feared in this tournament. And Latvia is not going to go into that game with fear.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to go into that game with every inclination that they can win it and that they have the ability. Now it's going to come down, I think, to goaltending. It sounds like Jacob Markstrom is going to get the net for Sweden. I'm not sure exactly if it'll be Gudlevski's or Shilov's for, not Gudlevski's, Merzlikins. Excuse me.
Yes.
Elvis Merzlikins. In that it's probably going to be Elvis, but either way, you've got, you got to have your A game, because I do think Sweden's going to get their chances. They always get their chances. They're going to find ways to get behind you, to get through you, and to get some good shots on. But we've also talked about with Sweden, we talked about it in the last show. We've talked about it. I'm seeing this opinion everywhere else now too. There's some real concern about whether or not Sweden is getting the appropriate level of coaching here, and that they're some of the decisions that are being made behind the bench are going to end up costing them the tournament. There's no question if they go out in the qualification round, it's going to be real difficult.
Everyone's fired. Everyone's fired if that happens.
Everyone's. I mean, for Sam Hallam, he's done after this year anyway, so he's got. But maybe he won't make it to the World Championship if that's the case. But I mean, we talked about that, and for Latvia, they have not had those lineup issues. They're playing their best players. They're getting those guys those opportunities. They're giving good ice time to their young guys. We've talked a lot about Dan's Lochmelish here.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about Albert Smits. Like, they have no fear of their younger players and of the guys that they think can do things for them. So I think if Sweden's not careful, they're going to get punched in the mouth here, and they're going to have a response in that game.
Yep.
So that's another one where these two games, you very much could look at these underdogs and say there's a chance.
Yes.
Which if we didn't have what we have seen so far in this tournament, Babs, I wouldn't have said that, because on paper there's a huge difference between the two teams. But that's not how these games tend to go. It's going to be an absolute war with a chance to go to the quarterfinal and play Team USA.
No, and without a doubt, it seems to be playing to one of those situations where we will see an underdog win one of these games out of the four here. It's inevitable. The Latvians going against Team USA after, I think the USA can do what they did again. However, Team Sweden's a team where, hey, we can score 9 in the first period against a team like Latvia, or we can score none. We don't know what group we're going to get, because they have so many shooters and so much speed. If they can just break you early, then they can do that within the realm of possibility. It does seem like a dejected group at times. However, coming off of winning a game against a Slovakian opponent that's been very annoying, even though it didn't give them the correct seeding, I would assume we're in the fear of consequences situation, which I guess at times hasn't affected William Nylander's play, because he's always played up in the playoffs and been one of those performers for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The rest of this group, I don't want to necessarily say, because I haven't watched them nearly as much as I've watched Willie, but hopefully they can stand up to said occasion. But coaching staff across, even in Canada, it's been a large discussion of who's coaching our national teams. Europe has done it in a more consistent, more confined way, but maybe we see someone like Matt Sundin coaching the World Championships as they need a buffer guy. Something could happen where they do have a different person come in. And also some of these European countries looking at bringing in like a non-Swedish coach. Like we've seen, the Paul Maurice discussion was brought up about Finland. Would that be a possible outcome we could see? It is a discussion. Could Sweden try and pull one of these guys who isn't coaching? What about, I don't know, John Tortorella? Do you want to be the head coach of Team Sweden? I know you're on the bench as an assistant coach for Team USA right now, but do you think you could get the best out of William Nylander?
God, I would love to see it. I would love to see that. I would love to see Torts behind the Swedish bench. Oh my gosh, that would be incredible.
He would never do it. He would never do it.
No. He's like, I'm way too American for that.
Yes, he's too ingrained.
I mean, like, really, real quick, like these guys are talking, it has nothing to do with the quality of coaching in Sweden. It really, like the country is developing players at a tremendous level. But once you get to a certain stage, and these NHL players who have been playing in the league for years and years and years, they're getting coached a certain way, and then that changes. And then so like, that's really the thing, is like, it's not so much like at the World Championships, you can still have your full-time national team coach at that. But when you're bringing in this level of NHL player, they're expecting to be coached a certain way. And I think that's really going to be the thing. But that won't be an excuse. Like, Latvia is in the same boat. Denmark's in the same boat. That's not going to be excuses for them because they've played better.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
After the break, guys, we will have a further discussion into the women's side of the game, but there's a breakdown on the men's. And we'll also have the Fortune 4 for you. So we'll see you guys after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
And we're back, and starting off with the Fortune 4 report, our top players who drove the action on the ice. Chris, I'm going to go first this time. Usually I let you go first. I'm going to give my first spot to the French Federation. They are the ones that drove the action on the ice because they removed a bad actor from that action, allowing tomorrow's game to be about playing hockey and not trying to make up for the fact that you had a failed hockey career. So, the French Federation, kudos to you. You did the right thing. And then Marie-Philippe Poulin, setting Canadian history, a good example for young women in Canada looking at what she's been able to do. Also doing this playing hurt, which adds an extra layer to what she was able to accomplish.
Yeah, no question about it. What a legend she is. Going for me, I got to start it off with Caroline Harvey, KK Harvey. She didn't have any points today, yet she is the representative of Team USA's defense that has been so good at keeping the pucks out of the net. She's got the puck on her stick. Good things happen all the time. She was making a lot of plays, making a lot of good things go. Caroline Harvey, she is an absolute superstar. So awesome to watch her play. And then Taylor Heisey scoring a big goal for Team USA. Big moment for her. She hasn't had as many points. I don't think she's necessarily impacted this tournament as much as maybe we expected her to, but today was a good chance for her to get off the slide. Great player, tremendously skilled, and a big reason Team USA is playing for gold.
Speaking of Team USA, and they're playing for gold, Chris, Canada, USA, big matchup. No one saw this one coming. But the state that we're in right now, I think, is we're just a little surprised by Canada. But Chris, what are your keys to victory here for the United States? Because they don't really seem to need to change anything.
Yeah, really, it's just kind of continue putting the pedal to the metal here. I think it's all about being a team that uses your team speed, that uses your skill, and not allowing yourself, being the team that dictates the pace of the game. Be good in transition, be good through the neutral zone, be smart with your passing, be smart with your skating, and all those different things, and get pucks into those dangerous areas. Just keep pushing and possess that puck as much as you have. I think those are big. And really, for Team USA, it's not getting sucked into a game that does get them off of where they're at right now. And these games are emotional. They're going to be hard. There are going to be nerves. There's going to be a lot of things that have not probably existed in some of these other games. So Team USA just simply has to do what they've been doing pretty much the entire time, which is to, skate teams out of the building, possess the puck a ton, play physical but smart, and draw a lot of penalties and do a lot of those good things. And then on top of it, you've got Aaron Frankel backing you up, who's, pretty much the best goalie in the world right now. So incredible to watch, super excited to see it. But yeah, I think Canada certainly has their work cut out for them in the old US of A. So it should be a lot of fun to watch that one.
My real keys to victory is Canada needs to aggressively be driving the net as much as possible. We've seen that the officials aren't in some ways so upset when people get knocked onto the other team's goalie. They're allowing teams to really drive the net. What they are stopping is if a goal goes in, they do something about that. So be aggressive, drive to the blue. They're allowing you to do so. We haven't seen a ton of goaltender interference penalties that haven't been off of a goal happening. So if you got an opportunity to drive to the net, you might as well be driving there. And yes, there is a chance the goal might get waved off, but it's better than sitting on the outside like Canada did the entire time against the United States when they lost 5-0. It was all from the outside. None of those goals were really a major, or none of those shots were really a major threat to be a goal because you're throwing stuff from the far hash. It's not going to happen. So Canada drive the net. If you have to take one ding there, it's the last game. You're going to get a little bit of a break after this. So really got to lock in with driving the net, because one thing that they did not do. Well, I gave some advice to some of these other outmatched teams, saying that they need to create drama and a bit of a nuisance at the beginning of the first period, really try and get the other team off their game. That is not what Team Canada needs to be doing in this situation. They need to play smart defensively and try and possess the puck. Don't give the United States a lot of possession. And they can do that by cycling in the offensive zone. Be smart, but then take your shots. So drive the net, take your shots. It's basically like the most basic hockey advice I could really give to anybody is, hey, just do the thing that people would just generally spew out there. And that's my analysis.
No, I mean, I think that's it. Like, you got to simplify the game, right? You got to find a way. You have to dig as deep as you possibly can for your best effort so far. You got 2 days to re-rack. The coaching staff has time to figure things out. So now, make sure you're coming at it with the right attitude, and you still got a chance. It's still USA Canada. We still expect it to be a tight game. I think that other game was a bit of an anomaly, and now you put the gold medal on the line, changes the whole dynamic. I cannot wait. It's going to be an absolute war. It is probably going down to the very end. Maybe we'll have extra time. Who knows where it goes, but this is going to be an epic final between two of the absolute best in the world.
We better hope so, because Chris, sitting on my side right now, this is probably the most nervous I have been for a women's final as a Canadian fan.
That's what I like to hear.
Hey, I try and, just call it how it is. Speaking of calling it how it is, Fortune Tires, guys, they present our show every single day. Thank you for them for supporting. And I should also mention, you can watch a lot of hockey on Flo. There's definitely going to be some exciting games kicking off tonight, some of them which have already started. So make sure to stay on, check those out. Some great action. The AHL, ECHL, OHL are all playing through the Olympic break. So you've got that to watch. But Chris and I will see you tomorrow with an even bigger breakdown, because there's 4 games for us to recap. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
inside the blue line.
Along the wall. Centering pass off a skate. Long ahead this goes. Break play. Going in. Byro. Scores.
We'll play some hockey, eh? Hockey. We're going to play hockey today.
Yano for it. He'll wrap a shot on a goal. And hits his first goal of the season. Coming out of the air. Wow. Going in. 1, 2.
Crowd already engaged here tonight inside the blue line.
Along the wall. Centering pass off a skate. Long ahead this goes. Break play. Going in. Byro. Scores.
We'll play some hockey,